Welcome to the Project Core Professional Development modules. This module, Predictable Chart Writing, emphasizing core vocabulary, is designed to describe predictable chart writing and explain how to emphasize teaching and using core vocabulary during this instructional routine. Project Core is being conducted by the Center for Literacy and Disability Studies, a unit in the Department of Allied Health Sciences at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Predictable chart writing is a multi-step group activity. It provides a framework for teaching communication using core vocabulary, print concepts, writing, and interaction around a topic. It also provides opportunities to teach concepts about print and build early skills in word identification, spelling, capitalization, and punctuation. Predictable chart writing has 5 steps that are described in detail in this module. In step 1, the teacher and students work together to write the chart, with each student contributing at least one idea. In step 2, the group reads together, talks about the chart, and looks for specific elements. In step 3, students are given a sentence strip with the sentence they helped create written on it. Students read and reread their own sentence and then cut the sentence into individual words. They finish step 3 by reassembling the words into the complete sentence. In step 4, students collaborate to assemble sentences from the chart during a game called Be the Sentence. Finally, in step 5, the class creates a book using the sentences from the chart. Depending on the skills of your students, each step can be completed on a separate day, or multiple steps can be combined into a single session. Let's go over each step in depth. During step 1, the group creates the chart together. Here is an example of a completed chart. The topic or title of the chart in this example is Cold Outside. The teacher selected the topic and title of the chart based on a theme being explored in the class during the week. Then, she selected the sentence stem, I put on. She intentionally used words from the 36 words in the universal core. Sometimes, the sentence stem only includes 1 or 2 words from the universal core. In this example, I, put, on are all words in the universal core. Selecting words from the universal core gives teachers the opportunity to repeatedly model each sentence using a universal core vocabulary system. In addition to selecting the title and the words for the sentence stem, the teacher had to decide what options she would provide for the students to complete the stem and how she would present the options. While the stem is the most important part of each sentence, the choice is also important because it helps increase the students' interest and engagement. In the case of the chart titled Cold Outside, the teacher introduced real objects. She brought in a basket of things to put on when it's cold outside. Before starting the chart, she pulled each item out of the basket, named it, and then put it on while modeling I put on using the Universal Core Board. For example, she said, I put on mittens, while pointing to each of the symbols on the Universal Core Board. Then, she repeated modeling the sequence on the Universal Core Board as she introduced each of the items in the basket and put them on herself. In taking this approach, she helped ensure that the students knew the names of each of the objects they could select to complete their sentence. It also allowed her to provide many models of the phrase, I put on, using the Universal Core Board. Then, the teacher started writing the chart with the students. She wrote the sentence stem while the students watched. She talked about the letters and words she was writing. Then, she gave Sarah a chance to select the item she'd put on when it is cold. Sarah selected the hat. And the teacher finished the sentence and used a different color to write Sarah's name so everyone would remember who contributed the sentence. While writing the chart, The teacher carefully lined up each of the words in the sentence stem. While she selected these words because of their power for communication, they are also among the first words students learn to read and spell. Seeing them written so clearly and stacked up in this way helped students develop understanding of concept of word. For some, it helps them learn to identify the word in print. The final chart has 7 sentences. 3 students selected hat to make the sentence, I put on a hat. 2 selected coat, I put on a coat. 1 selected boots, I put on boots. Finally, 1 selected gloves, I put on gloves. In selecting the topics and stems for the chart, be creative. There are thousands of chart topics that could support emphasizing core vocabulary in sentence stems, providing the repetition with variety that we know is so important. Let's take a look at a few examples. The sentence stem, I put on, could be used to write about the colors of leaves added to a class tree. I put on could be used to write about funny costumes with choices like a cape, a mask, glasses. I put on could be used to write about ice cream toppings. The sentence stem, I like, could be applied to hundreds of topics, including things like favorite sports, pets, and school activities. The sentence stem, I want to go, could be used to write about topics like vacation, field trips, restaurants. There are thousands of chart topics that can be supported with sentence stems that emphasize words from the universal core. The second step of predictable chart writing involves rereading the chart, talking about it, and analyzing it for a few carefully selected text elements. The primary goal of this step is to help students focus on specific aspects of the text. Start by rereading the chart while emphasizing the repetition of the sentence stem and modeling what a fluent reading of the text sounds like. Next, read the chart again while encouraging the students to read along. While reading as a group, you can allow students to be the pointer. Using a classroom pointer, a marker, or a light, students can take turns leading the group in reading word by word. After rereading the entire chart, talk as a group about each sentence. You might talk about why students made the choices they did. Once you've read the chart a couple of times, you're ready to analyze the chart for key elements. This is done by introducing the elements of the text you want the students to focus on. For example, you may ask the student to find any words in the chart that are also on their core vocabulary boards. Students work together to examine each sentence. For students who are unable to talk or point, use partner-assisted scanning. This is done by having an adult slowly point to each word in the sentence. Then the student tells the adult to stop using a gesture, vocalization, switch, or some other means when the adult is pointing to a desired word. Let's look at a few examples. As you talk about the chart, students can talk about not only their own contribution, but also all of the things their friends added to the chart. Consider the class contributions for our initial example for the topic, cold outside. Some students chose the same things to put on. This provides an opportunity to talk about same and different. Modeling core vocabulary as you say things like, Sarah's sentence says, I put on a hat. Let's find the sentences that are the same and different. The teacher points to same and different on the universal core board while saying the words. Then, the teacher reads each sentence and asks students to help her decide if it is the same or different from Sarah's. During step 3, students work with sentence strips. First, the teacher gives the student a copy of the sentence they created on a single sentence strip. The student is encouraged to read the sentence, even when it is clear that the student cannot read just yet. The adult might support the student in reading by pointing to and saying each word. After reading and rereading the sentence, students are supported in cutting the sentence into individual words. Some students will be able to use scissors independently to try to cut, but many will be physically unable to cut the sentence independently. Adults can help these students by running a finger across the sentence strip and asking the student to indicate, using a gesture, vocalization, or a switch, when they should stop and cut. The whole point of cutting the sentence into individual words is to help students develop an understanding of concept of word and begin to recognize the place where one word ends and another begins. As such, avoid drawing lines, making dots, or otherwise cueing students regarding where they should cut. Instead, help them learn to look for the places where one word ends and another begins. Give the students the time they need to figure it out by doing it. After each student has made one attempt to cut the sentence into words by themselves, review it with them to see if they have successfully cut it into separate words. If not, use the second sentence strip and work together to cut it into individual words. After the sentence is cut into its individual words, mix up the words and ask the student to arrange them to recreate the sentence. After each attempt, read the words in the order the student placed them. In this example, Kiana has arranged the words to say, "On boots put I." The adult reads it while pointing to each word and then asks Kiana, "Does that sound right?" Then the adult referred back to the chart to read the sentence in the correct order before asking Kiana to try again. The adult repeated the process one more time before guiding Kiana to recreate the sentence correctly. The fourth step of predictable chart writing involves playing a game called Be the Sentence. During this activity, the adult writes the words from each sentence on a full-size sheet of paper. It's only necessary to write the words from the sentence stem once. Each word is printed with a large, thick marker and a font that's large enough for students to see from the front of the classroom. Students are given individual words from the sentence. The adults read them aloud and model how to say them with the universal core. Then, adults work with students to move them into order to recreate the sentence. Adults should work to give students as much independence as possible in determining the order, and students who do not have words should be encouraged to say if the sentence created is the same or different from the sentence on the chart. As long as students remain engaged, adults can continue to give students words and work with them to move their bodies in order to create the sentence. The final step of predictable chart writing is making a class book. First, adults ask students to select an image that illustrates their sentence. This can be done using magazines, photographs, or images from the internet. But adults should gather a small set of images ahead of time and give students choices rather than spending the entire session searching for images. This is an important step when making the book because it provides students the opportunity to show ownership and make their own connection to the writing. Adults might work with students to make the book using tarheelreader.org or other computer or internet-based bookmaking tools. Step 5 is important because it results in a permanent record of student work. Often, written work is on a chart or computer or a whiteboard where it doesn't get saved. Having a book provides an artifact that students can return to over and over again. These books often have additional meaning to students because they were made by their class. Frequently, predictable chart writing books become class favorites. Pause for Activity 1. Remember, In predictable chart writing, the sentence stem is the most important part. It is the repeated, predictable part that we expect students to learn. Some students are learning to say the words using their core vocabulary communication systems. Other students are learning to read and write the words. Repeating sentence stems with different topics and words to complete the sentences increases the chances that students will learn to say, read, and/or write the words. It's important to plan ahead for predictable chart writing lessons. First, plan the chart topic and title. Next, plan the sentence stem from the universal core. After that, identify the choices that will be presented to students so that they can complete the sentence stem. Finally, plan how the choices will be presented so students can understand them and communicate a choice. There are many ways choices may be presented, including the use of partner-assisted scanning, eye gaze, manipulation of tactual objects, or pointing to symbol choices. Planning guides to support these steps are available for download from the Project Core website. This concludes the module. Your feedback is important to us. Please take a couple of minutes to complete a brief survey about this module by going to project-core.com/PD survey. Thank you for your participation. To learn more about Project Core and to access free resources and materials, visit the website at project-core.com.